Good everyone, and welcome to day 9 of our study through the New Testament. We're looking today at the angel appearing to Joseph, and this takes place in Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. Today I'm going to go through this a little bit verse by verse versus some of the others. They've been a little bit longer, so we haven't gone through them so much as verse by verse, but I'm going to try to go through this one a little bit more verse by verse because there's a lot to hit on here. So, to just real quick start, we've had at this point an angel appear to Zechariah and an angel appear to Mary, and now we have an angel appearing um, to Joseph, and we're going to see this. And like we talked about in the previous lessons, Luke's standpoint, Luke comes from the standpoint of looking at it from Mary's perspective, and Matthew now comes from it looking through it the lens of Joseph. And so now we see what Joseph was going through from this, whereas from Luke we kind of see more of what Mary was going through. So we'll pick this up in verse 18. And so we see here in verse 18, it says, "This is how Jesus the Messiah was born. His mother Mary was engaged to be married to Joseph, but before the marriage took place, while she was still a virgin, she became pregnant through the power of the Holy Spirit." We've already seen this story. We know how this happened. We saw this from Mary's perspective. Joseph, to whom she was engaged, was a righteous man and did not want to disgrace her publicly, so he had decided he was going to break the engagement quietly, which was his right to do, and we're going to look at that. And so what we have here, starting with verse 18, is they're engaged, and this isn't like an engagement like we see today, where one person asks another person to marry them, and they plan on getting married. This was but I can't say the word. But anyways, this was an engagement as agreement. It was a legal process that they went through. It was binding, and so to cancel it was much like going through a divorce. So this wasn't some, oh well, I'm giving you the ring back, I'm not going to marry you now. It was a whole process. And so um, he was they were considered a couple married, even though they weren't officially married yet. And so that's a little bit different than what we see today. And so the other thing we see Matthew focus on, like the other writers did, is that he focuses on that she was a virgin. She had not had sexual relations, and that she was conceived through the power of the Holy Spirit. And so there's a focus on that because that authenticates Jesus's divinity and who he was. If that's not true, if they can't show that, then Jesus isn't who he said he was. And so we need to focus on that. As we get into verse 19 here, it says he was a righteous man or a good man um, who obeyed the law. So he could have. There's a lot of options he had there. He could have exonerated himself, and he could expose her. She could have actually gone on trial, and more than likely would have been put to death, stoned. You'd be stoned to death for becoming pregnant like this out of wedlock when you're engaged or betrothed to another man. So, but he chose to do the latter, which would have been the more right through, which shows that the righteous man that he was to just get rid of her quietly. And so, he had decided to do this, not surprisingly. I mean, he had every right to, because, I mean, you think about it. I mean, think about it. You're engaged to this woman. She shows up and says, "Hey, I'm pregnant. It's God's baby." I mean, what what are most of us going to think? So that was, but he was trying to do the right thing, and so we see in verse 20 here, as he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream. Joseph, son of David, I highlighted son of David. There's a reason he called him that. The angel said, "Do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child within her was conceived by the Holy Spirit, and she will have a son, and you're to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." So, verse 20 here, again, not surprisingly, like I was mentioning before, it took a supernatural appearance of an angel to kind of convince Joseph that, yeah, this story is actually true. This really is happening. I mean, I think it would take that for most of us today. I don't think we would believe our us men, anyways, would believe our fiance if she ended up pregnant and she's like, well, it's God's baby. You know what I mean? So it would take some supernatural interference here. And you also see the angel addresses him as son of David. He is of the line of David. We're going to see that. I think it's tomorrow in that, but he is from the line of David. But he's calling him son of David to prepare him for the message he's about to tell him. So there's a difference that he gives there. And so then he goes into verse 23. All this occurred to fulfill the Lord's message through his prophet. Look, the virgin will conceive a child, she will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And this is a 23 is pulled from Isaiah 7:14, which says that a child will be named Emmanuel, meaning God is with us. And so in the original context of Isaiah, it was a prophecy from a child born during the reign of King Ahaz, I think is how that's pronounced, of Judah. But Matthew's using it here to parallel as also as the fulfillment of the prophecy, the fulfillment of Jesus that we see here as well. And so, verse 24, when Joseph woke up, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded. Again, we see this theme of obedience throughout these scriptures from people like, even Zechariah, Elizabeth, from Mary, and now from Joseph. We see this theme of obedience here, listening and following the instructions of God through these angels. So he took her. He did take Mary as his wife, but which he had the right to do, but he didn't. He did not have sexual relations with her until her son was born, and Joseph named him Jesus. And the reason for this, again, he's focusing on this. Even after they were married, they still did not have sexual relations until after Jesus was born, because that was to prove and to 100% show that there was no indication, no way that there could be a human father involved. And so this is important because it shows who Jesus really was. So this is the viewpoint from Joseph that we see here, and I like that we get this, and I hope that going through this chronologically shows you the different viewpoints and the way this is seen. I think it kind of bundles it all up together a little bit better, and we kind of get those. We see it as it happens, and I think it means a little bit more, and we can dig a little bit deeper into what we see here. So again, I hope y'all are enjoying these. We have enjoyed. We just had our first discussion this Sunday about going through it, and it does allow us to dive a little bit deeper by slowing down and looking at the few verses every single day. As always, if you have any questions, have any comments, anything you would like to see, or anything that maybe I didn't hit, and just say, hey, this is something I saw here. It allows for good discussion, allows for us to see things from a different viewpoint, and I feel that that was the intention of what we saw in early worship. There wasn't this someone speaking at you, telling you everything. There was a back and forth, and so I want to see that a little bit more if we can. So if you have any comments, if you have any questions, more than likely share this with people, please. We're trying to get these messages out there. We want people to see the Bible from this different standpoint, this different view maybe, and we're hoping that this will help people. One, get closer to God, see the Bible. Maybe even those who maybe are not willing or wanting to look at the Bible, maybe this will open that up a little bit. So if you could do that for me, we would love it. Thank you so much for continuing to watch these. I hope you'll have a good day. Thank you.